Red light therapy devices range from $30 to over $3,000. And I need to tell you something uncomfortable. Most people buying the cheap ones are wasting their money. And some people buying the expensive ones are also wasting their money. The difference between a device that works and one that doesn't is not the price. It's not the brand. It's three specific things, and almost nobody talks about them. I'm a dermatologist who has personally used red light therapy for over 4 years. I recommend it clinically, and I've tested more of these devices than I'd like to admit. Today, I'm giving you the framework to make the right decision and my honest ranking of the devices I actually recommend. Hi, I'm Dr. Amina, triple board certified dermatologist with a focus on longevity-based skin health. Red light therapy sits right in the middle of my world. It's one of the few at-home tools with genuine clinical backing, and it's one of the most aggressively marketed categories in skincare. Those two things coexisting means you need a filter. If you're new here, I'd love to have you hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. I make dermatology content that explains the why, not just the what. Now let's get into it. The science, why red light actually works. Red light therapy works through a process called photobiomodulation, which sounds like something a villain in a sci-fi movie would do to your face, but is actually just a very precise way of describing how specific wavelengths of light interact with your cells. So here's the mechanism. The light penetrates into the skin and reaches the mitochondria. These are the energy-producing structures inside your cells. The mitochondria absorb the light and use it to produce more ATP, which is cellular energy. More ATP means better cell repair, better collagen and elastin production, and a more efficient regenerative process overall. But what makes this different from a laser, a peel, or microneedling is that it works without causing any damage. You're not injuring the tissue to trigger a repair response. You're directly fueling the cells to do their jobs better. That's why it's well tolerated by pretty much almost everyone, including people with sensitive skin. And the clinical data is real. There was a study from 2014, which is one of the most cited in the space, that showed an 86% reduction in crow's feet wrinkles after 12 weeks of 9 minutes per day. That's a meaningful result for a completely non-invasive device. I've personally been using red light for over 4 years now, and I've noticed that I do need less Botox than I used to. I mean, I can't attribute it entirely to red light. I have changed other things too, but it's a data point I definitely have paid attention to. The key wavelengths. Red light between 630 to 660 nanometers targets the skin's surface and the dermis. So we're talking collagen production, addressing fine lines, texture, and brightness. And this is your primary target for skin health. Then there's near infrared light, which is 810 to 850 nanometers, and this penetrates deeper. It goes into muscle, nerve, and connective tissue. This is excellent for inflammation, healing, and recovery. And for skin specifically, red light is the core. Near infrared is more so I would look at as a bonus. What separates a real device from a gimmick? Before I get into specific devices, here's the framework I use to evaluate every device that comes across my desk. Now, there are 5 things that matter. First, surface area coverage. Wands and pens give you a tiny surface area. We're talking like a square centimeter or two. To treat your full face with a wand at the recommended dose, you would be sitting there for close to an hour. That's not realistic, which means most people using wands aren't getting an adequate dose. You want a mask or panel that covers the entire treatment zone in a single session. 2, no heat emission. If a mask gets noticeably warm while you're wearing it, that's a red flag. Therapeutic red light wavelengths do not need to produce heat to work. Heat from a device means it's likely emitting wavelengths beyond the therapeutic range, and that excess heat can trigger inflammation. It can worsen melasma, and it can aggravate rosacea. So if your mask is warming your face, it's not doing what you think it's doing. 3, published wavelength data. Does the brand specify their exact wavelengths? 633 nanometers, 830 nanometers, something in those ranges. If a device just says red light or LED therapy without specifying, I would be skeptical. Any legitimate device manufacturer knows their wavelengths. Vagueness here is either ignorance or intentional. 4, power output and irradiance. Irradiance is measured in milliwatts per square centimeter, and it tells you how much energy the device is actually delivering to your skin per session. Cheap devices routinely underpower their LEDs to cut costs. Higher irradiance means more effective energy delivery per minute of use, which matters both for efficacy and for how long each session needs to be. 5, FDA clearance. There's an important distinction here. These devices are FDA cleared. They are not FDA approved. Cleared means that the FDA reviewed the device and determined that it's substantially equivalent to a predicate device. It's gone through regulatory review. Approved is a higher standard requiring full clinical trial data used for drugs and high-risk medical devices. So FDA cleared, not approved. If a brand says FDA approved about their $79 LED mask, they either don't know the difference or they're hoping that you don't. Device rankings comes by category. Let me go through the categories and give you my honest take on each. First, full face masks. My top recommendations. CurrentBody Skin LED Light Therapy Mask. This is the one I'd call the best value in the professional grade mask category. It's FDA cleared, uses 633 nanometer red and 830 nanometer near infrared, and the clinical data behind it is real. One of the most widely used masks globally, and for good reason. It performs at a level you'd expect from a device costing significantly more. Then there's the TheraBody TheraFace mask. This is FDA cleared, and what sets this one apart is that it combines red, near infrared, and blue light in one device. So if you want a single mask that covers anti-aging, inflammation, and acne without buying separate tools, this is a legitimate all-in-one option, and the build quality is excellent. I'm going to also talk about blue light a little bit later in this video. Another thing that differentiates the TheraBody mask is that it also has this vibration setting, so it feels like it's giving your face a little massage at the same time. Next is the Omnilux Contour Face. So if you want the device with the highest irradiance and the strongest published clinical data in the consumer mask category, this is it. FDA cleared, 633 nanometers red, 830 nanometers near infrared. Like the others, this one's pricey, but the data and the engineering definitely back up the price point. Then there's the Dr. Dennis Gross SpectraLite Facewear Pro. This is FDA cleared. It's widely available at Sephora, on Amazon, which makes it very accessible. It's a solid entry-level option for somebody wanting to try a clinical grade mask without committing to the higher price points. The irradiance is lower than Omnilux or CurrentBody, which means sessions may need to be a little longer to reach an equivalent dose. But it works, and the ease of access is definitely a genuine advantage. Masks to approach with caution. Any mask that gets warm during use, any device without published wavelength data, any brand that claims FDA approval rather than clearance, and any device priced under $50 claiming clinical grade results. At that price point, the LED quality, irradiance, and build simply cannot match what the clinical data is based on. Wands can be appropriate for very targeted spot treatment, a specific line around the lip, a small area of concern. They're not efficient for full face use, and if you're buying one expecting full face anti-aging results, you will probably be disappointed. The surface area limitation is a physics problem, it's not a brand problem. Then there's red light panels. Panels are my favorite format for anyone who wants whole body red light therapy rather than just the face. Brands like Juve have set the standard here. The irradiance is higher, the coverage is larger, and they're the device format most often used in clinical research. The upfront cost is significantly higher, but the versatility and the dose delivery are genuinely different. So if you're interested in like systemic benefits beyond the skin, whether it's joint recovery, inflammation, sleep, a panel is the format that gets you there. And there's combination red and blue light. Blue light at 415 nanometers targets Cutibacterium acnes. This is the bacteria involved in acne. So combining red and blue can be effective for inflammatory acne since red light addresses the inflammation while blue targets the bacterial component. But one important caveat, so blue light alone will not treat cystic or hormonal acne. If your breakouts are driven by hormones or sebum dysregulation rather than bacterial overgrowth, blue light is addressing the wrong mechanism. How to use a red light device. Protocol and safety. Here's exactly how I recommend using these devices for best results. First, you want to start on clean, dry skin. For most sessions, you want to avoid SPF and exfoliating acids directly before treatment. Those can interfere with light transmission or cause irritation on skin that's already been treated. However, applying a hydrating serum like hyaluronic acid or a peptide serum before your session is actually fine, and some data suggests it may enhance penetration of the active ingredient. Think of the light as driving delivery. Use the device 3 to 5 times per week following the recommended session length on your specific device. It's typically like 8 to 10 minutes. And rather than jumping straight to maximum session length, just easing gradually over the first 2 weeks. This is especially important if you have reactive skin. After your session, you could apply your moisturizer, proceed with your normal skincare routine. Sunscreen during the day is of course non-negotiable. Red light therapy is stimulating cellular activity, and you don't want UV exposure undoing all that work. A note for melasma and hyperpigmentation. If you have melasma or prone to pigmentation, please be cautious with any device that produces heat. Stick strictly to the 630 to 660 nanometer range and confirm that your device produces no warmth during use. Heat is a known melasma trigger, and a device that heats the skin can worsen pigmentation even if it's delivering red light simultaneously. Additional safety notes: avoid direct eye exposure. Most masks come with a built-in eye shield, so make sure you're using them. If you're pregnant or if you have a history of light sensitivity or you're taking any kind of photosensitizing medications or have a seizure disorder, please consult your doctor before starting. Here's the honest timeline. Meaningful results typically show up at 8 to 12 weeks of consistent use. If you're not seeing anything at 4 weeks, please don't give up. You're still in the early phase of the cellular remodeling process. The people who quit at 6 weeks are the ones who will never know whether it would have worked. Red light therapy is one of the few at-home tools I genuinely stand behind, and I say that as someone who is pretty skeptical of most devices marketed to consumers. The science is real, the clinical data exists, and when you choose the right device and use it consistently, the results are real too. The key word is right device. I hope this breakdown saves you from spending money on something that was never going to deliver, whether that's a $30 wand or a $3,000 panel you didn't need. Everything I recommend is linked in the description box below, organized by category and budget, so you can find what's right for you without having to cross-reference a dozen reviews. If this helped you, please share it with somebody who's been eyeing one of these devices. A like helps us reach more people, and if you haven't subscribed yet, this is what I do here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.